Morning everyone.
Yes.
Global organizations like Colonel Healthcare, Thomson Reuters, and he has held a lead role in learning and development and trained senior leaders and managers in multinational companies. Vijay is a passionate instructor, speaker, and technologist working on latest digital technologies across domains with AR, VR, and cloud. Vijay is a leading contributor to various NGO programs on value education, personality development, and technology trends for the younger generation. Adding feather to his hat with his niche NLP and coaching skills, he is currently helping several managers and entrepreneurs and youth to unlock their potentials to reach success at new heights. With this brief introduction, I would like to welcome to the session handing over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I express my thanks and gratitude to the management for giving this opportunity. And it's been our relationship along with Jagat Praja Seva Trust and Bangalore Institute for quite some years now. So we have been able to be of some support with them for quite some years. So today I'm going to share as a part of this FDP program on the mental and emotional development. Sounds very interesting topic. It is certainly very, very interesting topic. So how I'm going to take this session is something going to be extensively interactive. Like if some of you would have attended my earlier session, I will try to make it as engaging as possible. So I would request you all to just stay focused for the next 75 to 90 minutes. So that's how the session is planned for. So like the
Your
conventional,
voice is not
in the
audible.
last 2 years, it's been a conventional practice on the virtual platform.
Vijay Kumar sir,
It
your
has
voice is
become
not
that
audible.
conventional practice now. So can I uh, request the connection, the other connections to be on mute? Maybe I'll make some basic virtual housekeeping announcement first, because I still see a lot of connections being unmute. So if I may request the connections to be on the mute, thank you. And also, if I can, I'm not sure how the practice is. If it will be really nice as you're all practicing faculties, so you would be knowing better. If you all could keep your cameras on, the engagement level would be much better for you and for me as well. But I'm going to keep it a little interesting by telling whenever you feel excited, you keep your camera on. That's going to be a hook for you now. So it's going to keep us active when we have this face-to-face interaction. Otherwise, it may look like there is not much of engagement. So I would request if some of you can keep your cameras on, that would be really nice. Thanks for some of you turning it up. All right. And may I request one of the co-hosts to let me know how many participants are there, just to know, because the very first activity itself is going to be a questionnaire or a survey. You can put it on the chat.
As of now, hello sir, I'm audible.
Yes, you are, please. Okay, I can see now. Sorry, there are 16 participants.
Yes, sir. As of now, 16 participants are there, the 15 participants. So we are looking forward to further.
No problem. The only reason I just asked is it, am I all set to start? That's all. All right. So the agenda for today, goes this way. We have 6 items to cover, which is going to be fairly quick ones, and it's quite engaging in itself. So we will just do the practice of what is mental and emotional development, and followed by why mental and emotional development in FDP, why AICTE or ATAL and was expecting this as a part of FDP.
Spring, please do wait. There's some disconnection. So you'll be joining in a few seconds.
You just share your share your reflection for these particular questions. So I'm going to explain you what is there on the Google form.
Sir, we are not audible, sir. There's some disconnection.
Sir, Vijay Kumar sir, I think your network is not
Yeah,
stable. You're not audible.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay. Just a second. Just give me a second. I'm just switching to a better network. Just a second.
Okay.
My apologies. Is that any better now?
Okay. As of now,
All right. Not sure why. So anyways. All right. So I was just requesting that I had shared a Google form on the chat. That's our first step to begin this program itself. So I have shared the Google form on the chat. If I may request all of you to just fill in the Google form. The first question, the first half of the question is, how do you as a faculty or the teachers score your teaching style across the below mentioned dimensions? That is like, how much are you digitally focused when you are training the current student? And also the next half is, how much are we in general risk taking? And what do you believe as an effort versus skill? So we have also defined if you believe hard work has no substitute or skill based smart work is the key. So it is different too. So that's how the rating scale is going to be. And social versus individual, how much social I as a teacher versus how much I as a teacher, I'm more individual specific. So, and visual versus traditional, this 5 questions, just 5 questions, there's nothing more for the teachers. So if you could just kindly take this, and I can see some of you filling the response already, which is really nice. Yeah. I'm just going to stop sharing for a moment. Can I request some of you to, yeah, thanks. I can see some of you giving the responses. The more the responses, it will help us to assess better. This is something which we will, I'm not going to do any research or any personal assessment. It is just going to assess the state of training and how we can improve. So I have put the Google form link on the chat. So for those of you who are joining now, I'm going to reshare it on the chat again. So I would request you all to kindly click on the Google link, that Google form link, and just do the simple assess questionnaire. Fill up those simple questionnaire. Thank you. I can see some of you filling it up. Okay, I have around 6 response, whereas we are 25. Okay, thank you. I see some more responses coming in. Let's wait for a couple of more minutes because once you are done, if you can kindly put it on the chat, that will help others as well. Kindly fill up the Google form that's been shared on the chat. Yeah, it will be really nice to have at least 60 to 70% of the the participants respond to it. I'll just wait for another 1 more minute. All right. So the link will be active and we will proceed with the session. I will just tell you how it's going to be connected after the results can be collated and shared by my team. See, the activity that you did, or some of you are still doing, is a questionnaire from a teacher's perspective and from students' perspective. I hope you took that assessment. Like I said in the beginning, that's the way you have to take it. So now I am just waiting for the last person to just complete this assessment. So just give me 1 minute. So once we have that magical number, then we can just close the assessment. I'm just looking for at least 10 of you to fill it. Right. So let me proceed with this. What is mental and emotional development? And as I said a while ago, what does this topic has significance in connection with us for as an FDB program? So those are some things which we are going to focus the first half. And post that, we will be seeing different self-assessment tips. And then we will look into generations of learners. And then we will look into the characteristics of teachers and learners based on the survey that we just did. We'll just do a simple analysis and show where is the gap and how we can bridge the gap as a gap analysis step. And we will also finally discuss on the M&E strategies, which is a very important part at an application level. What do we understand as the M&E strategies, and what are the things that we as a faculties, as teachers, we need to apply? That is something we will see. So what is mental and emotional development? What is mental and emotional development? So any personality that when we consider, this is a very simple refresher, which all of you would know for sure, but I'm just going to quickly refresh you on this. A personality is generally being categorized into different cues and commonly known as the 4 cues. And there are different sub cues that exist, which goes up to 9 cues in general. But primarily there are 4 cues, that is emotional quotient, intelligent quotient, and physical quotient, and the spiritual quotient. There are these 4 essential elements that makes a personality. Each of us have our own distinct personality based on the strength of the quotient that we may belong to. How we may, there are scenarios where we call somebody as, oh, that don't deal with such and such person, he is too emotional. We may also say some person that, oh, he is a geek, he is very genius, you know. So some of such personality is in the where the IQ level is slightly more or high. Likewise, we have different personalities based on these typical things. So as a part of this session, this is a question to all of you. You can reply on the chat, please. As a part of this session, which quotient are we going to deal more? Which quotient of these four quotient is our session is going to be focused on? Any guesses? Okay, I can see a couple of you saying a few things. Okay, there is EQ and there is some of response like SQ. Thanks for those responses. Any other thoughts? Okay, EQ side. All right. All right. At least I'm extremely glad that we are not falling, none of the response that came towards the other side like IQ or PQ. Certainly, it's not that a region. So our discussion is primarily going to focus on the EQ side, and it will also touch the SQ side at the crux of the finish of this session. So, so this primarily the mental and emotional is primarily falling. The major portion falls on the EQ side. The mental and emotional quotient falls on the EQ side. And as an FDP program, AICTE wants the faculty members to practice this on the EQ side. Why? Why do they want? Why do they want? Why do they want the faculty members to practice on this side? Any guess? This is just a question for your thought. I'm not expecting a response. But why is so important? EQ is so important, or the mental and emotional development is so important for our teachers. Teachers of all walks. It could be a school teacher or it could be a teacher at technical education, but all walks of life, this EQ skills are very, very important. That is why AICTE has brought in. The reason for that is the mental health state of the students in India, more so, are extremely going through a lot of wavering emotions. You are all on the ground. I'm sure you know more than me on this topic. They go through a lot of wavering emotions. They go through a lot of change. You know, the first year, the adolescents, when they come in, and it's called as the later stage of adolescence. Adolescence age is generally classified as the beginning and the matured and the later. The later stage is when they come in, where they go through a lot of emotional changes, lot of physical changes, a lot of environmental changes, because of which they go through a lot of different mental health challenges, which all of us have gone through. None of us is no exception. But still, when it comes to children of this generation, it takes a little bigger toll. Why? the generation plays a role, what is happening, that we will see as a part of the future slides about the generation. But the mental health state of today in India is increasingly going very, very concerning. And that is why AICTE has wanted us to introduce this. What is so concerning? Look at this data. Just in this pandemic year, during this period, the suicide rates in India overall, student suicide rate is 21%, which is the top in the rating. Fortunately, the students' suicide rate percentage is the most highest percentage of a particular sect or a group. That's students who stands at 21%. And recently I happened to witness, or I think the right word was I happened to come across a news which was really shocking. Was X number of students during this time of 2020 and pandemic period, the number of students who committed suicide were extensively high. I'm just going to ask this. Did anyone get to come across that news? Do anyone know the number? How many students per day happen to live their life in India during this pressurizing, changing environment? Any guesses? How many students in India? Okay. Oh, I don't. Okay, let me break the suspense. I'm not sure if all of you are able to hear me. If one of you could just confirm, are you able to hear me, please?
Yes, sir, we are able to hear you.
Okay, thank you. So this is the statistics which says 34 Indian students died by suicide each day in pandemic hit 2020. This includes students of all spectrum, not only technical spectrum or AIT, AICT and or anything of that spectrum. It is students of all spectrum. So now the need for this education on the emotional support the student need is extensively high. Otherwise, they face this untimely death. So that is the reason why AICT is introducing this very important session on mental and emotional health development that each of the faculties needs to undergo to support themselves, because they will also equally undergo pressure, but they can also, by enabling themselves, they can also support the students. That's the whole reason why AICT has introduced this. So we need to understand the data behind some session that is getting introduced. Especially people in this group are extremely good at your IQ level. That's why you are here. But when it comes to the EQ level, no doubt you are on par. But there are certain things that due to this ever-changing environment, we also need to dynamically adapt to those environments to support the need of the new generation of learners. Right? This is a very basic teaching model, which you all would know more better than me, is that Robert Glaser's instructional objective, entering behavior, and instructional procedures, and then assessment. And then the feedback loop continues, and this model is how this general education system is running. You know, the objectives are defined at the AICTE level, and I'm sure each of you also apply this behavioral at your entering point. As simple as you all have this EQ side very strong. There is no second thought, at least for me, about it, because you know when to take a particular important topic, when the student would be available, when their dynamics will work, and all these you are exceptionally good at. And you would not want to keep some important topic at the last hour, post lunch hour, and some things you plan your structure it and you know how to engage them much better. Those are all some of the important entering behavior. But the generation change is much faster than what Robert Lazar said in 1962. Then the generation that is evolving in the student learner's perspective overall is also totally different. We in the corporate industry, we kind of keep on assessing every now and then what is the generation that we are in and how is our learning needs are catering to that generation. In the span of just my 15 to 16 years of my career in IT industry itself, the educating model has changed in the 15 years minimum 3-4 times, because we want to ensure that the new generation of learners are being catered the way they want to learn. So that is why it is very, very important for us to understand as a teachers the emotional psychological change that generation that goes through. So the generations of learners in simple have been categorized into 4 categories. The first category of learner is 1946 to 1964. Why? What happened prior to that? Prior to that, they call it as the traditional conventional learners, and they just leave it at that level. This 1946, why was this year being picked up? Because this is when the swine flu which hit, and a world and the education system went through a huge paradigm shift, and the experts started considering from this time of the period as the beginning of the generation of learners, like we are seeing post this. I mean, while we are part of this pandemic, which is still not yet completely over, we are also seeing there is a huge amount of change in the education pattern, right? Which was there in 2019 was totally different, and now so many changes are going through. Likewise, the experts decided to start this baby boomers, they call, as the beginning of the generation 1 learner, just for the sake of tracking. And since then, it's been very systematically tracked. The 1964 to 1979, the people who are born in this generation are called as Generation X learner. And 80s to 94, probably most of the faculties may fall under the Gen Y learner, who are also otherwise called as millennials. And now, whom are you training and whom are we facing in the corporate industry are Gen Z learners. Gen Z learners. So that's the 4th generation of learners. Now just look at this very important data point here. In the year 1964, or the fag end of Generation X learner, technology and digital and analog era started, and slowly it started moving towards highly intense digital era in the late 90s, more so in India. or mid-90s onwards itself. And now this set of learners are in moving towards, and now we have 1995 born and people born in and around that time period as our students. Understand this? You know, in the corporate world, they call them as they are digital from their diaper days. They are digital from their diaper days. That means that their native learning itself is digital. So these are some of the important characteristics. Though I'm going to share many more list of characteristics of Gen Z learners, but we need to understand their characteristics if we have to cater them at the emotional level. That's why we are sharing this. They are super social in nature. That's why we had this analysis in the questionnaire, which I shared as a part of the Google form, where how much is our readiness as a teacher on the digital platform versus their exposure on the digital platform. How do we bridge this gap? So that's going to put an emotional pressure on both the side, in fact. So these are also the proven data points for Gen Z learners. They are usually multitaskers. They can do 5 screens at once. And they are entrepreneurs. 72% of the teen wants to start their own business someday. You know, in the modern trend is there are people who are called as kidspreneur. Probably that's the future which is coming up. They're called as kidspreneur. You can Google out to know more about the kidspreneurs. The generation of education is focusing people to move towards that direction, which probably the Gen Y learner, what they did after 15 years, these people will do it in no time. And very interesting points are the Gen Y learners, which who are millennials, they have this little more tendency towards the mentor program. But Gen Z learner have their different ways to learn itself. And prior to Gen Y learner, that is 1980s born, prior to that, they have a very systematic and high respect and regard for parents and teachers. Their system was totally different. But today, whom you are all catering are these kind of generation. They are called Gen Z learners. And they are super interactive. So a quick question. Do you all agree with me so far? Any thoughts? Or is there anyone who disagree with these thoughts? Some of the characteristics that is put on the Gen Z learners. Yeah. In case you're hearing, probably you can just respond it on the chat. Is it something in alignment with what you face as Gen Z learners characteristics? Okay. Thank you for some of you who responded personally. Thanks for that. All right. So now this is the characteristics and further about Gen Z learners. They are digital native, they are visual learners, they expect innovation, they are habitual multitasker, they early starters, they want to be an entrepreneur at a very early phase of their life. They want to socialize, but they also have challenge in some aspect of socializing in person. We will see that as well. They are very global because of the network era and success focused, environmentally aware, and pragmatic. They're rational, sensible, and all this. What is something which we consider as a previous generation of teachers or learners, which we consider as challenging, is their attention span is only for 8 seconds. It's very low compared to all the other generations of learner. And their trust factor is very less. And they do not rely much on parents / teachers, and intellectually disengaged. And they are super cynical. And they are / careerist. I believe you all know what is / careerist. Basically, / careerist is a personality who has multiple titles. Like to an extent, when I look at myself, I fall under that category. Like I am a technical person by profession, but I love to be in the world of education to help people. And the NGO part of myself, I help a lot of younger generations by helping them in, EQ and SQs and all those walks of life. So that is called / careerist. They are kind of master of many things. And the food habits, that's a big question to ask. How good is their food habits? Because that itself is one of the impact for EQ. Food habit, the reason I added food habit is sometimes you might have noticed some student who have an different food habit or has an extensive habit of junk food eating and things like that. They get into some or other health issue and they may be facing some discomfort in the class and which you may not be aware of. And some and such things keeps happening because their food habits are not so healthy in one sense. And now, are you all as a teacher and are we as a educationist and supporting people for this engaged generation? Is our emotional quotient ready to cater them? Is each one of our emotional quotient ready to cater them? Do you think yes, no? So I'm going to share with you all a simple self-assessment kit. I would sincerely request you all to fill it, and I have no access to that. I have no access to that. So I am just going to share this link to you on the chat. So I would request you all to just do this activity. It is going to help you as a self-assessment tool for your own self, and it is going to give you how good is your emotional intelligence when it comes to dealing with others. Based on that, you can plan your next necessary step. So I'm just going to share you all how this page looks like. So once you click on the link, you will be here. How emotionally intelligent are you? Boosting your people skill. So just scroll down a bit where you will see a simple self-assessment link. Can you all please take this assessment. It's a self-assessment for you to analyze yourself. I can recognize my emotion as I experience them. I lose my temper when I feel frustrated. You have to rate yourself, how often do you do this and all that. As you complete it, the end, you have a simple button which called calculate my total, and you will get to know your total. Once you get this total, if one of you could just tell me that you are there, then I will tell you what is the next thing. Just going to be, I'm going to stop sharing for a moment, and I will wait till you all get back saying that you have taken the assessment. So have somebody taken the assessment? Can I just get a confirmation? You have taken the self-assessment? Probably I'll take all your silence as yes. Okay, thank you. I can see a couple of you responding. Thank you for that. All right. So if the score of this is ranging between 15 to 34, this is what it indicates. And if the score is ranging from 35 to 55, then we are emotionally okay, but we need probably some amount of good relationship with some of our colleagues, and we need to slightly improve on those range. And if the score is ranging from 56 to 75, then we are great. You are an emotional, intelligent person, and we can make a better future. So this is just, I thought I'll share it for everyone's benefit so that it will be of some help to you all. Okay, so now we have a next, as a part of this, I have a simple chart to analyze based on the Google form that you all filled up. So thank you. Yes, thank you. So this, based on the Google form that most of you filled up, I was expecting more response, but I found out to have only 9 response, which is okay. So let me just share what was the analysis showing for us as a part of the Google response that we did. The first question in the Google form that we asked as a survey question was, how how digital focus are you versus how digital focus students you believe students are. Okay, so here comes the interesting points. So the orange dot, sorry, the violet or purple, that dot indicates the teacher's response. The student's response comes to be as a green dot, where a lot of you believed that the teachers here in this particular quadrant, if you look at it at least, you have rated the teachers tied to be as 5 in the scale of 1 to 5, where the teachers are good at digital focus, but when it comes to student, the rating is they are slightly less. That's a very interesting phenomena that we are encountering here, because when we usually take this assessment or a survey, it used to be slightly other way, but I'm extremely happy that teachers here are focusing more towards digital phenomena, whereas the student, you feel that they are slightly low in the terms of the digital accommodation, but it's usually the other way. If you look at that in the Gen Z learners category, which I just shared as a part of this deck, they are digital natives. So ideally, they are super powerful in the terms of the digital exposure. So with respect to risk taking, I think this here it comes very interesting analysis. Like students are a lot of, I mean, at least I can see if you draw the midline, I think it is certainly showing a better sign for the students at risk-taking level. And with respect to teachers, based on the survey that you all did, I'm just saying the results. So it is showing that the teachers are slightly risk-taking level, which is a correct fact. Why? Because the Gen Y learners are slightly less risk taking. For me personally, I belong to the Gen Y category. I am less risk taking, whereas if you consider this generation which is next, they are slightly high in risk taking, which was really interesting fact that came out. And this is also very interesting to see that you know, this is one of the things that we had asked about effort was a skill. How many of you believe as a teacher hard work will yield result, and how many of you will feel that skill based smart work yield result? Because the new generation believe more towards the skill based smart work, and the previous generation usually believe the hard work yields result, which is a skill based smart work is the era that we are moving towards. Here, if you look at it, there are teachers who have said at a lower scale, which is an expected phenomena as per what we know. And this is actually to be more higher and higher for the student side, which is actually going. If we have more results like 70 people or 100 people doing it, the results would be much more interesting. So that's why I did this exercise in the beginning, so that, you know, backend team collated the results and gave me this. So likewise, we have done the assessment for social and individual. Students are more social in, I mean, in the social media environment, but some of them have also teachers indicated that they are not that social. In fact, you can look at some of the scores for students coming at almost at 1. So the other ways, the teachers are obviously they are expected to be more social, and they are, I think they are above the mid level, which is, I think, slightly above the mid level, which is still good. And then visual versus traditional. This goes without saying. The modern generation of learners are visual by nature, and here the data itself shows none of the student is below the mid level. They're all above the mid level, which is a very sure point that they are visual learners, like from the survey that we just got from you all. So then interesting analysis that we thought we will do it along with you as a characteristic, right? There is a gap if you notice it, right? The Gen Y learner as a teacher when we try to learn, and there is a Gen Z learner where are the people who are the students now. There is a huge gap, and how to bridge this gap? It's not going to be the case that they are going to come down to our style of learning, and it is the case because of the ever-changing, fast IT advancement. We have to adapt to the technological changes. So that is where there is a gap where we need to bridge to get them emotionally and technologically fill those gaps. So to close on this topic on the data analysis chat, we as a trainer need to cater our students based on these characteristics which they have. If you go and Google out about the Gen Y learners, which is most of the teachers or the previous generation of teachers may fit in, if you try to adjust your emotion versus their emotion and cater the need towards this generation of learning, then you can certainly reduce that emotional anxiety gap for the student. See, if I run a session similar to this for a younger generation, the interaction level will be extremely high. But not just being picky here, but the reason I'm just saying is the Gen Y learners are not so interactive by nature. So especially when it is an environmental change, their interaction will naturally reduce. When it is an in-person, probably you and me will be more interactive. When it is a environmental change, like a virtual environment, the interaction may be far lesser. So that's something which is what, based on how effective session we share, the interaction will certainly increase for the Gen Z learners. Okay, that's some of the characteristics that I just want to bring it up. And basically, this mental and emotional development, if we just focus on those topics, it helps in holistic development. Why do I say that? Why do I say it helps in holistic development by just focusing on mental and emotional? Because that is like the fulcrum or the base or the foundation. In the different Qs that I showed, the SQ being the super base, and over the SQ are this EQ, and over the EQ is what is the IQ, and over the IQ is what is the PQ, which is the physical quotient. So we give a lot of importance on towards the physical quotient by giving health and all that. But the fundamental point is the SQ, and above that is the EQ. What we are talking today is on the EQ layer. So we need to mentally and emotionally help somebody, means we need to have a very clear understanding of this hierarchy, how it works. So we are coming to the final few slides, which is going to be more on the practical tips and strategies for the teachers. So before I jump into that topic, I just want to have a quick pause and ask, is there any question, anyone think otherwise, you want to express some thoughts, feel free to do so, because you're on the ground, you would know better on this challenges that you may face. Okay, I see some chat that has come in. Okay. All right. So here are the practical tips which I understand and grab from the my exposure on the education side with the from the IT companies' experience on training the managers and the leaders. So, and this is what beautifully summarized by the expert in NIITR in Chennai. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Renuka Devi, she mentions a beautiful point. These are the practical steps for teachers for effective teachings to Gen Z learners, the next generation of learners. What are the practical steps for teachers she is suggesting? Start thinking digitally how you can connect with them more, and being creative with all visual supportive aids, because they are visual nature and they like to be innovative. So you need to be creative when you present the content to them, and that will emotionally give them more appeal to connect very easily with you as a teacher. Then provide experiential learning, which is very well-known topic, and I'm sure all of you would be aware of experiential learning. So provide such experiential learning. Break your message to smaller chunks. Why is that being said? Why a Gen Z learners, we have to break the message into smaller chunks? Any thoughts? I show the Gen Z learners characteristics here. Why do you think the Gen Z learner, we need to break it into smaller chunks? What characteristic is addressing that as a solution? Just a food for your thought. So I just want to trigger your thought. Actually, we need to break the message to a smaller chunk because their attention span is very less. Yes, thank you. I think I saw one of you responding to the chat. Exactly. We have to, their attention span is very less. We have to break the message to a smaller chunk so that they can digest it. Rather than giving a huge lecture, which is fine, which is out to happen as a part of the academic learning. But at the end, conclude the session with, okay, this is what we learn as a part of today's session, by giving some digestible 4 or 3 points. That's it. 3 is ideal. That's why we generally say it as break it into smaller chunks and keep in contact to identify their emotional and mental challenges that they may be going through. So when this, excuse me, so when they go through such kind of emotional challenge, when we as a mentor or as a teacher, when we stay in regular touch and be in connect with them, that is going to make them open up and reveal the challenges. And naturally, these kind of untoward scenario, which I spoke in the initial section of my presentation, the untimely death and suicide and all such things can be avoided because you building rapport by talking their language. That is why I'm spending so much time in explaining what is their characteristics. So this is something as a practical steps, very simple things, sounds very simple, but it's when it comes to implementation, we need to constantly endeavor to achieve perfection on all this because we belong to a different generation of learners. Right? Now, so strategies to strengthen M&E, mental and emotional development. What are the strategies that is going to help us to strengthen? Practice brain gym activity. Can we all do one brain gym activity now? Are you all ready for it? Yeah, it'll be really nice if you can turn on the camera at least for this activity, because it's going to be helping to do some simple steps. Are you all okay? I'll take your silence as okay. Anyway, so one of the simple brain gym activity that I can start off is on your right hand, just keep your right hand like this and your left hand like this. Okay. Now try switching this. Try switching this. Basically, try switching this to be L and this way. Sorry, this way. This is full. This is L. This is full. This is L. You know what is, how easy is this? The expectation is easy, but how easy are you able to do it? I can see some, it's actually not so easy because we are not training our brain regularly to give instruction to the left and the right brain equally. We will see in a minute what is left brain and right brain and how it helps. I'm sure you all would be knowing about the left brain. But the point that I'm trying to emphasize here is try doing this one simple step. I have two more things to go when we talk on the brain gym activity. So then the next part, practice mindfulness. Practice mindfulness. What is mindfulness? Mindfulness is something you can see in the image. Sometimes we go through a feeling at our mind level, being very sad and dejected. Student also go through that, right? So what do we need to do? Just invoke ourselves and appreciate for something which you have been doing rather than. So this is a mindfulness in itself is a 3-hour exclusive session. So I'm not going to spend the entire time on this, but just a simple keyword that image is showing is give yourself a compliment to keep your mind occupied always. And be aware of what you're doing. That is simple. The awareness is the simple keyword for mindfulness. Because today the generation, the Gen Z learners are lost in so many ways. They are spaced out. They just don't like to be mingling so easily. Some, especially they like to mingle only through digital platform. So the way is to appeal them is crack and give a surprise and connect with them. That is something, is a practice that we may have to do. And by increasing our spiritual quotient, our emotional quotient, and the physical quotient, all of it will be catered. Yeah, let us have a look at how spiritual quotient can support emotional quotient and emotional quotient and all the other higher quotients. So the base of a personality is actually the inner value that you own, that is, in other words, called as the spiritual quotient and your core values. That is the self-identity that we call it, the self-identity. And above the self-identity is the EQ and IQ and PQ. And there are other Qs which are subset underneath. So now, if you build the foundation strong, naturally the above one will be well built. The foundation of the subtle side of us is called the SQ, the value-based life. If you build a stronger SQ, then all of it is better and stronger. So for which there is an experiment which was performed by Dr. Emoto in Japan. He performed an experiment by observing water molecules and their crystal formation behavior. As we know, a sound energy is very powerful, which can shatter even a glass, right? When you put a very simple experiment, I'm sure a lot of you would be aware of this. A very simple way is just keep a speaker and a glass of water, the water starts shaking, and it can even, the sound can even crack the glass. And a synchronized sound can even crack huge things. As you may be aware of this fact, when army people are marching, they synchronously march, right? But when they have to run on a bridge, they asynchronously run. You know why? It's a very common science. Because a synchronized sound with so many people running can crack the bridge. So they are mindful of the fact, and they just asynchronously run, and people just kind of jog and go in different frequency. The point is, the sound vibration can cause change in the crystal formation of the component, and it can cause damages. Now, a sound vibration was tested on water. What is the crystal formation? By Dr. Yamato. This was what was his observation. In the picture from a Fujira Dam in Japan, before even starting a prayer, this was the state of a water molecule, which was very, kind of a disturbed state. And when huge lot of people started to synchronously pray for 1 hour together, it could be any prayer. When they got together and started doing a prayer, the water molecules started forming the crystal shape. And when abusive words were being chanted or basically said, the water molecule kind of distorted extensively. Just hold on. Why am I talking about this water and crystal and all this? Just hold on for next 1 or 2 slides. You will get to know how is it connected to the mental intelligence and emotional intelligence. So now what is happening? When a healthy organic prayers are happening, the crystal formation is more symmetry. And when an abusive word and it just breaks off the symmetry, and this was proven by Dr. Masaru Emoto in Japan, that when the Sanskrit prayers, when he noticed he was chanting, it forms a perfect crystal formation. Isn't it exciting? And this study has to go through a lot of approval, right? This is still in the process of getting approved, and a lot of studies going on, and further to Dr. Emoto's reading. Would anyone be interested in reading this loud for the benefit of the whole crowd? For the benefit of all the participants? Would anyone like to read it, please? No problem. Let me just read it for you all. Dr. Emoto's work has not yet been Dr. Emoto's work has not yet been put up to full scientific rigors, but this research definitely points to more research in this area. Yeah, as I said, there is much more. Let us consider the impact of this on our body. Our body is made of 70% of water. Since our body consists of 70% of water, and if we lose our emotions, and if we get agitated, and if we keep on using emotional, aggressive, abusive words and such thing, naturally we would lose peace of mind. we would lose peace of mind. When our mind, so the only way for our mind to be in a calm, composed state is by keeping the water molecule in harmonized manner. The best way to get this water molecule in a harmonized manner is through increasing our spiritual quotient by doing some prayers. By doing some prayers of your traditional practice. The ancient wisdom had much more visibility to all this. That's why the prayer was a routine on a daily basis. So this transformation of our body is undergoing on our spiritual path. So we need to be extremely utilizing this science, what we just got to understand through the scientist Amato, to apply and increase our spiritual quotient. You can do different mudras. If you're not getting sleep, this is one of the simplest mudra that you can try. If you are not having a peaceful sleep in the night, just try this mudra. You know, the three fingers, the little finger, the thumb, and the ring finger, keep it close. Just keep it in this posture. Keep your hands flat on the ground, and then go to your sleeping posture and sleep. You would never chant some kind of the habit of mantra which you may know and which you are habituated to. Irrespective of the religion, any mantra which you are comfortable, you can chant. Chant of the holy name is important. Then when you do that, it naturally puts the mind into peaceful state, and easily anyone with any amount of disturbed state of mind will eventually go to sleep. For less disturbed mind, they will go very early. For someone, it may take a little longer. So this is one of the things. I see some question that came up. I'm happy that there is some interaction that is happening. So thank you. How much score is good in this self-assessment? Okay, I can show it on the screen. 35 to 55 is okay, which needs some amount of training that we need to attend. That's what it means. And if your score is above 56 and up to 75, then you're great. Your emotional intelligence level is really good. So can anyone share their score? Okay, I leave that to their choice. If they want to share, they can share. Okay. There are some of them who have shared it. That's fantastic. 53. It's really inspiring to see that. So that is what your experience have taught each one of you. So, all right. Now going back to our strategies to implement our M and E. How can I increase my mental and emotional quotient? How can I develop that? The next strategy, the first strategy is SQ, increase your SQ. And the second strategy is brain gym. And the third strategy is mindfulness. Okay. The second strategy is brain gym activity. And now I have a simple activity. Okay. Before we talk about the left and the right brain. There's someone who has got 58. Fantastic. So brain gym activity. Very simple brain gym activity. I would request somebody, if you're willing to, you can please turn on your camera. It will really have good fun. Oh, out of how much it is good. It generally the scale goes up to 75. So anything above 56 to 75, like I just shared on the screen, that is considered to be good. In case you have not seen that, you can just see it 56 to 75. This is considered to be great. Okay, so coming back to this presentation now, I'm going to make you all do one simple activity. Can you all just break your finger like this and just draw number 6 in the air? Just draw number 6 in the air. Right? Okay. Now, little tricky one. I can't show it on the camera, but I'm just going to say that you can try doing it. Take your right leg with your toe, with your tip of the toe, raise your right leg, and with the tip of the toe, draw 9 on the air. Okay, draw 9 on the air. Doable? Kindly respond on the chat if you are able to do it at least. The 6 and 9. Yes, okay, thank you. So now you are able to do it. So now, can you do the same thing, which is fairly 2 simple steps, parallelly? By drawing 6 in the air in the hand and also 9 in the leg, can you just do this together? How many of you feel comfortable doing it? Is it easy? Did you experience it to be easy? No. Okay, I see a couple of no. Generally, it is not, because the reason is we are not training our midbrain. Why do we need to train our midbrain? Because, see, as you all would be aware, there is a left and the right brain. Left brain is very good for all these scientific, the numbers and logics and all these fundamentals of IQ, right? And the right brain is very much towards creativities and all these stuffs, right? Now the question is, we as a Gen Y learners, our methodologies and logics were very strong, and the Gen Z learner, the students whom we are dealing with today, Gen Z learners, they are creatively more stronger than us. This is what the studies says. They are faster in creativity. Their adaptability is slightly more faster. They can navigate too many screens at one time. Their multitasking is much efficient than ours. And like that, I just showed the studies, the study which showed the characteristics of Gen Z. So now, if we who are stronger or dominant towards left brain, if we have to help the dominant right brain thinkers, we have to come to a stage called midbrain training. The midbrain training like this is called brain gym activity, which is very simple. This will help us, this kind of simple steps will help us to become master in this. I'm still a learner, especially on the skill of brain gym. I'm still a learner, but it has actually started helping me. Right? So my request to all of you is try doing some brain gym activity. There are a lot of portal online and so many things that helps us to do some brain gym activity, which is going to may keep our health also much stronger, and which will also keep us emotionally balanced. By we being emotionally balanced, we can help the people around us, be it our family members, be the student, be it our colleague, people around us, also emotionally balanced by our conduct. So that's why some of these mid-brain activities and mid-brain exercise is going to be really, really, really helpful. So now, which side of our brain is dominant now? Test which is more dominant in you now. Do you see this lady or the image, whatever you may be watching? Do you see it going in clockwise or do you see it going in anti-clockwise? Do you see her dancing clockwise or do you see her dancing anti-clockwise? Could you please reply on chat? This is how our brain confuses us sometimes. Okay. Some of them said it's anti-clock, some of them said clock. I didn't put two different images. So yeah, that scenario is also possible. I see Arudra madam mentioning it as both. That is also possible. If we have the skill to switch our brain between left to right, we can see actually both happening. That is actually the brain gym exercise can make you do that. You know, actually, when I put this image on the deck, on the presentation as a part of creation, that time I was in a different state of mind. So it was more towards anti-clock at that time. Now I see it to be clockwise. So it is possible both the ways, because sometime our left brain is dominant, sometime our right brain is more dominant. So we need to train to get that midbrain activated. That is why a lot of portals, there is one interesting YouTube channel also, in case you are interested, you can watch, is that Super Brain. I think it's called Super Brains. Superb Brains. It's SUPERB, Superb Brains. There you may see all these midbrain activation techniques. Young children who do it. Because it's important. It's important. Right? So by knowing all these techniques, it's going to keep us more emotionally balanced. This is more on the practical application side. And you know, if you look at our ancient wisdom, these kind of things, these kind of mudras, whatever we just spoke, all these were existing, right? The mudras, whatever we were doing, and it all triggers a particular side of the brain to help us. So that it will eventually, this left brain, right brain training is also going to trigger us eventually towards the keeping a harmonious spiritual balance, keeping our strong spiritual quotient. Yeah. My last deck, application step. This is all I want to teach. In conclusion, in the nutshell, I want you to practice brain gym activities as if you feel that is in align with you, or I want you to practice the mindfulness if that seems to be in align with you, or I made you all to take the emotional quotient self-assessment if you feel that is kind of going in align with you, and if you see there is a need for you to bridge a gap, you know, we can help you, and practice EI. That way you can build your emotional quotient to help the students better, and practice to increase your spiritual quotient. Which of these three, or whichever of these three you feel suitable for you to adapt, please do so. These are all simple application steps to strengthen our mental and emotional development. Yeah, we from Jagat Praja Seva Trust, we kind of help people in holistic personality development of an individual. So VQ, and we also support on technical trainings like IQs and all of this. So that's where our core competencies. We are a bunch of professionals who got together for a higher cause of serving the next generation to come. With all the learnings that we gain from the different IT industries that we are in, we kind of pool those and put it for our nation for the best of the use for the next generations to come. Yep, that's it. Any questions? Let me just do a quick time check. I think I slightly overshot. Okay, in case you have a question, you can put it on the chat. If not, we can close it here.
Participants, if you have any questions or any doubts, you can ask, sir. Otherwise, you can put it in the chat box itself.
Okay. No problem. It looks like no questions.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for your personality development speech, as well as for some activities which made us active. And also, we look forward to you for more sessions like this. And very much thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for this opportunity, and I really enjoyed doing it. And thank you. We'll stay in touch.
Yes, sir. Yes. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, participants, you can we'll end this session for the being now. Now, later session, the next session will start at 2. That is 1:45. You can join the session. Thank you all.